Part 17. I have the option of love in the starry sky. Author, Lao Cha Shugu. Chapter 161. Compared to Dan Heng and Xing, Bo Chang was too resistant and the threat was even greater. And Huanwu knows how to defeat him. Bai Lu will definitely get into trouble and will be easier to deal with when the time comes. During the battle at that time, Huanlong's plan has always been carried out in an orderly manner, including defeating Bo Chang, which was something she expected. But I didn't expect it. Dan Heng will burst out suddenly, causing everyone to lose. If the cold-faced Xiao Qinglong exerts his strength earlier, Huanwu will not waste his precious time there at all. Dan Heng, Walter Yang, Giant Dragon Bai Lu, plus Bo Chang, there are 4 beings who can pose a threat to the order. The fake Tingyun is just a fabricated body. In a short period of time, there is no possibility of victory. Then, Bo Chang's eyes directly skipped options 2 and 4. There's not much to say about these 2 negative rewards. There is only the third option to choose from. I hope I can extract a useful skill. If it is something like Royal Sister Killer, that would be better. Bo Chang prayed a little in his heart. Option 3. Remove a bottle of Coke from system space. Ba Kame said, I plan to watch the show and have a drink here anyway. What's this? March 7th seemed to have forgotten about the Great Lord of Extermination, and his eyes were instantly attracted by the Coke in Bo Chang's hand. The black drink seems to be releasing an extraordinary charm. Bo Chang raised the Coke and said, the drink should taste good. Do you want to try it? The Coke bottle is a large bottle, not a small bottle. Just 1 bottle. Enough to make the person next to you drink enough. Of course. March 7th immediately grabbed the Coke from Bo Chang's hand. Anyway, if you don't go, it's not interesting for me to be alone, so let's just drink and watch the show here. Rewards are being distributed. Congratulations on getting the skill. Take off your clothes in 1 second. You can take off your clothes completely in 1 second. This skill. Bo Chang slowly typed out a question mark. Just consume a bottle of Coke and get something like this. It seems like a huge loss. Wait, it doesn't seem to say that you can't take off other people's clothes, so can I take off the enemy's clothes in 1 second? If the enemy is the opposite sex, and if you are a little thinner-skinned, you will definitely lose your fighting power in an instant. Can't you capture him alive? I am really a genius. Bo Chang had an idea and thought of an alternative use of this skill. March 7th unscrewed the bottle cap, glanced around, and said, there is no cup, look at me. A gentle wave of his hand. March 7th released a cold air, condensing a few cups made entirely of ice cubes on the ground. Apart from being a bit cold to the hands, this thing was still pretty good. As soon as the Coke is poured in, it becomes an iced version. Soon. On March 7th, he handed out a few iced drinks to everyone. All 6 people had a share. Black soda. The space station also has similar drinks. Esta held the iced Coke and looked at the small bubbles that kept jumping inside. She was not in a hurry to taste it. Bai Lu took a tentative sip and felt the bubbles exploding in her mouth, as well as the sweet taste, which made the little dragon lowly narrow her eyes. The description of Coke is, drinking it makes people feel happy. Bo Chang took a sip. I found that this Coke was different from the one I drank in my previous life. Both the texture and taste are much better. Xing and Zillowa followed and took a bite. Then he gave high praise. Bo Chang sat on the ground, holding a crystal cup in his hand, quietly watching the battle in the distance. The aftermath of the battle came from a distance from time to time. But because of the distance. Moreover, there were Jing Yuan and others blocking the way. The aftermath of the battle hardly poses a threat to everyone, and Bai Lu, Bo Chang, Esta, and others can be easily resolved. Listen to the chirping sounds of girls around you. Bo Chang had the illusion that he was on an outing. Huanwu naturally noticed the little guys watching the battle not far away. It can be said that they were drinking and drinking together, and they were just here to watch the fun. He didn't take the king of extermination seriously at all. Huanhui endures it. In the end I couldn't bear it anymore. On the contrary, he faced two envoys, Jia Danhan and Walter Yang. Huang has no chance of winning, so why not teach Bakang and others a lesson and let them know what it means to respect the envoy. Chapter 197 Crying and Fussing. Drink, right? I'll let you drink it. After Huanhu defeated Haida and Jingyuan, and resisted Walter Young's simulated black hole and Dan Hung's water dragon. A big wave of his hand. Use the skill, Mysterious Root Metamorphosis. It's time, to end this. The golden ball flew out from the palm of his hand. It hit the ground suddenly. Then, a large number of golden roots broke out of the ground, and the sealed land surged like waves. The roots with teeth and claws were like ferocious monsters, quickly attacking Bochang and others. This kind of large-scale attack is very difficult for Haida, Jingyuan, Danhan, and Walter Yang. Not of much use. Never used it before either. This attack was entirely aimed at attacking Bakang and others. Such a terrifying attack. Naturally, it attracted the attention of Sanyuki and others. Bailu was so scared that she stopped drinking coke and immediately transformed into a giant dragon. Run. Bakang used the invisible hand to grab all the girls and jumped onto the back of the lavender dragon. Esther only felt an invisible big hand wrapped around her waist. Then the whole person took off uncontrollably. Ah! The acting station master held his weapon in one hand and held down his skirt with the other hand to prevent exposure. Although Sanyuki, Sing, and Zillawa knew Bakang's ability. But they also exclaimed. The sound that exploded almost at the same time was crisp and pleasant, and Bakang was very satisfied with their reactions. After the group landed steadily on the back of the giant dragon Bailu, Esther was about to ask. The giant dragon Bailu flew into the sky with everyone, and the strong wind pressure made it impossible for her to speak. As soon as she opened her mouth, it felt like someone was stabbing her throat. Esther could only keep silent and look down. The place where everyone was originally staying was all covered by golden roots, and they were still chasing upwards ferociously, spreading for hundreds of meters without stopping, and it seemed that they were determined to catch Bakang and others. Seeing this, Sanyuki immediately took out his bow and arrow and shot. Esther and Bakang also attacked without giving in. Blocked the golden roots that were chasing behind. They were very fast, and if they were ignored, they might affect the giant dragon Bailu. Esther's weapon was a scepter, the tip of which could shoot high-energy lasers. She, Bakang, and Sanyuki attacked the golden roots that tried to approach. Sing and Zillawa's attack range was not that far. They just looked around vigilantly to prevent possible attacks. At this time, with Huanlong as the center, the hundreds of miles in the sealed land were covered by golden roots, and there was no place for Bakang and others to rest. Huanlong's sudden attack made them a little embarrassed. Now they can only hide in the sky. Bochang tried to use the power of the monkey spell. But it can only deform one golden root, which cannot solve all attacks. It is better to release the dragon explosion. You can't even watch a show. Huanlong is so stingy. Bochang can't drink coke now. He even ran too fast just now and didn't have time to take the remaining half bottle of coke. He hurriedly grabbed a few girls and ran away. The coke and the cup were submerged by the golden roots and were destroyed by Huanlong. Because the giant dragon Bailu was flying at high speed. So Bochang had no intention of letting go of Sanyuki, Sing, Zillawa, and Esther. The invisible hand kept grabbing their slender waists. To prevent Bailu from flying too fast and throwing people out directly. Although Esther didn't know what was going on. I have the option of love in the starry sky. Author, Lao Cha Shugu. Chapter 162. But Binxiu's smart acting webmaster, through the scene just now, could guess that it was Bo Chang's method. Esta was a little embarrassed. After all, that thing is placed on his waist. It feels like a big hand no matter what. But now that the situation is urgent, it is not the time to care about those things. With Bo Chang holding his waist like this, Scene felt full of security, and his eyes fell on the side of his face from time to time. Silva and March 7's faces were slightly rosy. The two of them didn't say much. Of course. I can't tell you now. Anyway, these hands will not affect their movements, so everyone uses the invisible hands as safety belts to provide an insurance. Bo Chang's feeling now is also very subtle. It felt like I was holding 4 girls at the same time, and it felt very good. Bo Chang, who was slightly distracted, was interrupted by several golden roots that suddenly attacked. He raised his hand and fired another dragon blast, directly blasting it into pieces. This incident is just a small episode. Basically no one cares. The battle between the envoys continued. The Golden Zhenjun wielded the Anyu sword and fought back and forth with Huanlu. The Black Tower feinted to the side and knocked down with a hammer from time to time. The beating made the Lord of Extermination dizzy. Because Haida hit her on the head every time, but Huan couldn't do anything to her. There were also Walter Yang and Dan Heng conducting a sneak attack. If it weren't for the fact that the body fabricated by the power of fertility was not powerful enough, I'm afraid he has been beaten down long ago. Bo Chang and others evaded in the sky for who knows how long. Finally, Jing Yuan found an opportunity to kill Huanlu with one strike. This thrilling battle also came to an end. The huge and beautiful body of the defeated Lord of Extinction quickly dissipated, just like the fake Ningyuan back then. In the end, there was only a blue flame left in the sealed land. That is the shape of the shadow illuminated by Bo's usual super flashlight. The burning cyan flame stayed strangely in mid-air. A hazy voice came out and said, "I was indeed careless this time. I didn't expect that there would be an envoy on the Luofu Immortal boat, including 2 dragon masters. You guys did a great job. But, all I lost was a casually made body." Huanhu's current voice is much deeper than that of fake Ting Yuan. Duan is in the form of a royal sister. But, looking at the flame from a distance, Bo Chang thought in his heart, this must be Huanhu's true form. Does she really have a gender? The enemy has been defeated. The strange golden roots spreading in the sealed land also disappeared with the dissipation of the huge female body. When the giant dragon Bailu flew towards Jing Yuan and others, the romance option is turned on. Option 1, don't miss this opportunity, it will never come again. Hurry up and ask about Ting Yuan's whereabouts. Huanhu, where did you hide Ting Yuan? Completion reward, Yandera's fourfold gaze. Note, watch your back. Option 2, Huanwu is about to run away. Hurry up and taunt her. What do you mean by a casually made body? Who believes it? Huanwu, you have been lurking for so long. No, is it just for this moment? I guess, you must be so angry that you are crying and making trouble now. Completion reward, get random props, ranging from matches to star destroyers. Note, such props will. Chapter 198 I didn't cry and make trouble. Option 3, do nothing, completion reward, Yandera's quadruple gaze. Note, watch your back. Look at options 1 and 3. Bo Chang knew that if he didn't mock Huanlu, she would definitely do something wrong. Maybe he will mention the tail-touching incident yesterday. In fact, Huanwu did this once not long ago. But at that time, Bo Chang came and stole everything she wanted to say, and everything she wanted to say was stuck in her throat. And now, Bo Chang also had to mess with her. Option 2. Although Bo Chang wanted to ask about Ting Yuan's whereabouts, it seemed, Huan wouldn't tell him. He could only place his hope on Danju, who had just been captured alive by Fu Xian. Since the other party knows the news that Tingyun was switched by the Lord of Extermination. Maybe he also knows something about Miss Fox's whereabouts. This requires Fu Xian to torture Danju. Bo Chang couldn't be of much help. He taunted loudly, "What do you mean by a casually made body? Who believes it, Huanhu? You have been lurking for so long, just for this moment. I guess. You must be so angry that your heart is broken, and you are crying and making trouble. It's so pitiful." Bo Chang didn't give Huanlong a chance to answer, and added another sentence without authorization. He just finished speaking. The system voice sounded. "Rewards are being distributed. Congratulations on getting a one-time prop, a primary school student card. When receiving fatal damage, you can offset an attack and become invincible within 1 second. Note, this prop has been stored in the system space and can be taken out and used directly. Elementary school student card? A good thing." Bo Chang felt slightly happy. This life-saving tool was lost not long ago. Now it's back. Huanlong, who was ridiculed, said in a cold tone, "I didn't cry and make trouble. Also, haven't your parents taught you that it's rude to interrupt someone else? Bo Chang, I've already remembered you, just wait, one day, I will make you feel the pain." Huanyu said so. The more Rang Ba felt, the more painful he had stabbed the opponent's foot. Jing Yuan suddenly interrupted. "Huang, stop saying harsh words, let's go back and tell the Legion that the revenge of the hunter will surely come." General Yunkai just finished speaking. The strange cyan flame suspended in the air dissipated. "Leave only one sentence. I'll be back." Both Jingyuan and Haida knew that just when they defeated Huanwu, she had already run away, and what was left here was just a flame avatar. Just like the Tingyun avatar made by Huanwu. The order of destruction is not so easy to kill. What's more, for the messenger of an energy body like Huanhu, if she only wanted to escape, it would be very simple. At least Jingyuan, Haida, and others couldn't stop him. The battle is over. Next. Scene looked at the star core not far away. The glowing sphere was still entangled by the roots of the tree, and the power of destruction was constantly being absorbed. Huanhu escaped, and the star core left behind became a lamb to be slaughtered. Walter Young pinched his chin. Huanhu will not be able to cause trouble in the short term, and there is no need to worry about her getting involved in Jianmu again. It just takes some time to seal the star core. As a product released by Nanook, the star god of destruction. The star core is not that easy to seal. Walter Young, interested in helping. Jingyuan held his forehead and said, "These things, I'll leave it to Fu Cheng. I haven't moved my muscles for a long time, and I just feel a little sleepy." Obviously, General Yunkai did not intend to let the Star Dome train help. After gently stroking his forehead, Jingyuan took everyone away from Jianmu's sealed place. Look at the second half of the battle. Bo Chang and others feasted their eyes, and they left with satisfaction. The Star Core crisis of Luofu Immortal Boat has come to an end here. After walking out of the sealed land, Ba Kang and his party met Fu Xian, who had just arrived. He saw General Yunkai with a tired look on his face. Fu Xian said worriedly, "General Jingyuan, are you okay?" "It's okay, I'm just a little tired." After Jingyuan finished speaking, he took a deep breath. "Huanhu is a powerful enemy. If it weren't for the help of Miss Haida and the train crew this time, I would have just relied on him alone, so I'm afraid the outcome is still uncertain." When Jingyuan introduced, Fu Xian nodded slightly towards Haida and Esta to express his gratitude. "General Jingyuan, you'd better go down and rest quickly, don't make yourself sick from overwork, I'm still waiting for the next 6 Emperors political meeting." Fu Xian was only halfway through when he was interrupted by Jingyuan. Okay, I understand, Fu Qing, don't worry." Next. Fu Xian's eyes fell on Dan Heng, and her eyebrows suddenly wrinkled. Your face looks so familiar. Wait a minute, I remember, you are Dan Heng, Yun Shang Wu Xiao, the reincarnation of Dan Feng, right? How did you come to Luofu Immortal Boat? Although Dan Heng's name was erased from the public by the Ten Kings. But Fu Xian, as a fortune teller, knows and should know the old cases and secrets of Luofu Immortal Boat in case of emergencies. Coupled with the dragon horns on Dan Heng's head, it is really easy to identify him. March 7 spread his hands and said, Dan Heng, you are quite famous in Xianzhou. Even Master Tabo knows you. If possible, you are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. I have the option of Love in the Starry Sky. Author, Lao Cha Shugu. Chapter 163. Dan Heng didn't want this kind of fame. He crossed his arms and had no intention of speaking. The cold-faced Xiao Qing long lives up to his reputation. Bo Chang and others just watched quietly. Jing Yuan raised his hand. Don't be surprised, Fu Cheng. I made a deal with Dan Heng from the train crew before. As long as he helps me defeat the Great Lord of Extinction, I will revoke the expulsion order against him. At least on the Luofu Immortal Boat, he will no longer be anyone's shadow. Fu Xian nodded and said, I understand, General. But, speaking of which, his appearance is almost the same as the one recorded in the shadow diagram. Does the reincarnation of the Vidyadharas really allow people to transform and be reborn? Yes. Dan Heng and Bai Lu both affirmed this. Jing Yuandao, the reincarnation of the Vidyadhara clan will indeed transform people, but their appearance will still be slightly similar. After chatting for a few words, under the protection of the Yunkai army, Jing Yuan left the Linyuan realm. Watching General Yunkai go away, Bo Chang and others learned from Fu Xian that there was some trouble at the Gongjia seaside. But this matter has been handed over to Yunkai Xiao Ei, Yanking. So there is no need for the train crew to intervene. The train crew can take a rest at Luofu Xianzhou. Before parting, Bo Chang looked at Fu Xian and said, Did you find out the whereabouts of Tingyun from Donshu? Not yet, Donshu didn't say anything. Fu Xian shook his head. Seeing this, Bo Chang felt a little regretful. Fu Xian looked at him and seemed hesitant to speak. Finally, after thinking about it, he just said, I have important matters to deal with, so I won't accompany you. Fu Xian turned around and left, leaving only a beautiful back. Bo Chang looked at it. March 7 suddenly came over. Does it look good? Chapter 199 Metamorphosis. I have to say, Lord Tabo is a small one. But it is indeed exquisite and charming, and it is unforgettable once you take one look at it. There is a relationship between appearance. It also has something to do with clothes. Fu Xian's costume is actually very bold. The smooth and flat back reveals a lot of skin that can be broken by blows. From the middle, almost the entire back is exposed. The waist skirt on her body is completely supported by a purple rope tie. Bo Chang thought, this back is suitable for cupping, and thought, pull off the purple rope yourself. Will Fu Xian's clothes fall off directly? Facing March Chi's question, Bo Chang was stunned for a second. Then answer subconsciously. Okay. Bo Chang just said a word, and suddenly felt a chill on his back. He immediately changed his words, it's strange. Strange? What's weird? Are you changing the subject? March 7 stared into Bo Chang's eyes. Cough lightly. Ba Kang asked, what did you just say? I said, does Fu Xian look good? March 7 showed a harmless smile. Bo Chang shook his head slightly and patted her shoulder with a serious look. March, I was just thinking about something, don't be too sensitive. Originally Bo Chang wanted to wait for the love option to pop up. It is a pity. This time the romance option was not triggered. Okay, let's forget it this time, Bo Chang. Next time, don't stare at others like that. It's rude. Listen to the lesson of March 7th. Bo Chang was speechless. In fact, apart from cupping and pulling ropes, Bo Chang looked at Fu Xian's back for another reason. That was, the other party's hesitant look caught his attention. Originally, what Bo Chang thought was, if March 7th continued to ask, he would tell the matter naturally. Unexpectedly, the pink-haired girl stopped mid-question. Stuck in the middle, unable to move up or down. Bo Chang couldn't take the initiative to say it. If he hurriedly explained, he would appear to have evil intentions. Now Jingyuan is gone. Fu Xian also left. The only ones left behind were the train crew members, Bailu, Haida, and Esta. Certainly. There are also cloud cavalry troops and the like around. They were subconsciously ignored by Bo Chang. Regardless of whether they were present or not, these people would not affect everyone. Zillow looked at Bo Chang and Walter Yang and said, "Where should we go next? Should we go back to Changgelshan? Or go back to the train and take a rest? It's up to you to make your own choice." Walter Yang said it casually. Bo Chang fell into deep thought. After achieving his goal, all he can do now is play. Haida on the side suddenly spoke. "Bo Chang, I have just communicated with the people from Xianzhou. They are willing to give me a laboratory as a reward for supporting Luofu Xianzhou this time. Now, you come with me. As for the rest, people, I'm sorry, I'm not interested in you at the moment. Oh, I almost forgot about this guy, she came for me." Bo Chang muttered in his heart. "Xingdao, experiment? I want to watch. Me, me, and me." Bai Lu immediately raised her hand. March 7th and Zillow also echoed. Walter Yang pushed up his black-rimmed glasses and said, "Then, everyone should follow the Black Tower. The star core crisis of Luofu Xianzhou has been resolved. The members of the train crew can move freely. However, Walter Yang always thinks of the 4 words Star Core Hunter. So there is no free movement. As a notorious organization in the universe, the threat of the Star Core Hunter cannot be underestimated, especially for the train crew. After all, they have already attacked Bo Chang. What's more, Dan Heng is also the target of the other party. The train crew must be careful. Black Tower. Forget it, if you want to watch, it doesn't matter, just don't disturb me." The puppet lowly looked at Esther. "Next, we will go directly to the Xingcha Sea Center." "Okay, MS Black Tower." Esther nodded gently. Bo Chang couldn't help but complain, "I haven't said anything yet." "What? You don't agree?" Black Tower glanced at Bo Chang. "Don't worry, as long as you cooperate with my experiment, I will reward you after it's over. The love option is turned on." "Option 1, he said confidently. "Okay, then I'll reserve a Black Tower doll. Completion reward, get random props, ranging from matches to star destroyers. Note, this type of prop will." "Option 2, he said with a puzzled look. "What reward?" "Completion reward, credit points increase by 1 million. Note, credit points will increase by 1 million directly after you have an Interstellar Peace Company account, and will not arouse suspicion." Option 3, he shook his head and refused. "I don't agree." Completion reward, Black Tower left the team. Note, be careful to give you a super large diamond. Bo Chang took a look. Option 3 is definitely not an option. Bo Chang rejected Black Tower repeatedly, and it was understandable that she was angry. After all, it would not feel good to come all the way here and be rejected. How to choose between 1 million credit points and random props? Bo Chang felt that if he chose the second one, Black Tower would directly let Estelle transfer 1 million credit points to him, and then attribute it to the system reward. Of course. It is also possible that Black Tower will give other rewards. It is possible that the system will really issue 1 million credit points. Bo Chang thought for a moment and felt that the Black Tower doll was still very interesting. What if the other party really gave it to him? It would be a great profit. Option 1. Bo Chang said confidently, okay, then I will reserve a Black Tower doll. Rewards are being distributed. Congratulations on getting the item, the lost watering can, which is used to irrigate flowers and plants. It contains an inexhaustible supply of water. This thing? It seems interesting. The lost watering can. It can only be said to be an interesting little prop. Hearing such a request, Black Tower tilted his head slightly, and several question marks seemed to appear on his delicate face. I have the option of love in the starry sky. Author, Lao Cha Shugu. Chapter 164. March 7 put one hand on her waist. She looked at Bo Chang and said, "You are too whimsical. How could Miss Haida give the doll to a pervert like you?" "Don't talk nonsense. When did I get the title of pervert?" Bo Chang rolled his eyes unhappily. March 7's eyes fell on the little Lolita of the Dragon Clan, as if to say, "You don't even let Bai Lu go." Surprisingly, Haida actually agreed. "Doll? Sure, as long as you cooperate with the experiment and let me have fun, it doesn't matter if I give you a doll." The doll Lolita looked up at Bo Chang. "In fact, when I came this time, I also brought another doll, and now it is on the Star Dome train to accompany GZI for tea. If you don't believe me, you can ask Esther." Chapter 200, Swearing, Reward Plus More. Haida said so. How could Bo Chang disagree? So, the group, led by driver Esther, came to the center of Xingchasi. When passing Changalshan on the way, Ba Kane also picked up Pascal and Sophia by the way. Pets and familiars who successfully completed the task. Now they can return. Walking on the road to the center of Xingchasi, Haida has been playing with Sophia. The little hands of the puppet Loli are touching the body of the familiar, making her very uncomfortable. She looked at Ba Kane with help many times. Is this useful? Of course it is useless. Ba Kane will be tormented by Haida next. For the sake of the realistic puppet Loli, he can only endure it. In addition, Ba Kane actually let Haida restrain himself, otherwise, she would not touch through the clothes. Instead, she directly took off Sophia and studied her. Interesting, really interesting. Is this your power? Turning stillness into movement. This little guy actually has reproductive organs, but I don't know if he can give birth, and what the child born will look like. What Haida said made Sophia's eyes roll up in anger, and she fainted directly. This foul-mouthed little princess was being played with by the puppet Loli. Of course, she resisted. But resistance was ineffective. Sophia just uttered a lot of extremely lethal swear words. Bai Lu benefited a lot. Bo Chang said, she should not be able to have children. Have you tried? Haida said something shocking. Almost choked Bo Chang. He took a breath and said, because Sophia can't digest the food she eats at all, so I think her body does not have normal functions, but just looks exactly like a real person. If she can't have children, then she is the same as the Chi Ming tribe. Bai Lu was thoughtful. She looked at Sophia, and for a moment she felt some pity. Bo Chang's eyes fell on the little Lolita of the Dragon Clan. The Chi Ming tribe has no fertility, so it can be irresponsible. Haida nodded. She held Sophia in one hand and looked up and down. So that's the case, but science requires rigor. What if she can have children? I think it's better to try. Hearing this, Sophia, who pretended to faint, struggled again, and she cursed. You humming, why don't you let your mother try it? Can you make her shut up? Haida looked at Ba Kane. This guy is too noisy. The love option is turned on. Option 1, threaten, Sophia, you don't want to become a toy again. If you don't want to, just be obedient. Completion reward, the familiar Sophia commits suicide. Option 2, comfort Sophia, saying, bear it for a while, I'll give you delicious food after it's over, and try to revive your night again. Completion reward, Black Tower's mysterious reward. Option 3, stop Black Tower's behavior, saying, Sophia is my familiar, not your experimental subject. Black Tower, you've seen enough, now it's time to give it back to me. Completion reward, get the skill, forced conception. As the name suggests, this skill allows you to ignore reproductive isolation. Note, this skill needs to be released actively when you are in the middle, and there is no need to worry about crazy birth. See the appearance of option 1. Bo Chang knew that he couldn't let Haida do whatever he wanted. Between option 2 and option 3, Bo Chang hesitated for a moment, and finally chose the third one. Sophia is my familiar, not your experimental subject. Haida, you've seen enough, now it's time to give her back to me. Bo Chang stretched out his hand. Sophia struggled to escape from Haida's hand, then jumped into Bo Chang's hand, and quickly climbed up his arm and onto his shoulder. After doing this series of actions, Sophia was panting from exhaustion. Rewards being distributed, congratulations on your skill, forced conception. Then I'll give it back to you. Haida looked indifferent, it's just a toy, why do you care so much? With your ability, it doesn't matter how many little guys like this you want to make, even, I can make a life-size doll for you, and when it's resurrected, wouldn't it be more interesting? Bo Chang shook his head and said, Haida, I am a nostalgic person. Sophia has been with me for a while. She is not a toy that can be replaced casually. March Chi, Sing, Zilawa, and others all nodded in agreement. They actually quite like this little princess. Especially Silawa, as a Baloberg person, she has heard Sophia's story since she was a child. I also love the little princess even more. Standing on Bo Chang's shoulders, Sophia held his ears with both hands. When she heard the other person say such words, her mood instantly improved a lot, and she thought to herself, Master, it turns out you still have me in your heart. Oh. Interesting. Haida put her hands on her hips and stared at Bo Chang with her cold purple eyes. What if I say, trade you with a Haida doll? Bo Chang paused for a moment and said, I won't change. You hesitated just now, right? A smile appeared on Haida's face. Bo Chang instantly sensed her bad taste. Sophia said, You, don't try to sow discord between this princess and the master. To be honest, when Sophia saw the Black Tower for the first time, she thought he was her partner. After all, the lowly doll has obvious joints on its body. You can tell at a glance that he is not a normal person. Sophia thought it was Bo Chang's new toy, so she got out of Pascal's belly and said hello to Haida. I didn't expect to be caught by it the next second. Kneading like crazy. Next, from the dialogue between Bo Chang and others. Only then did Sophia realize that the Black Tower was not Bo Chang's new toy at all. And he's a big shot. Bo Chang and others must give in to him 3 points of courtesy. Thinking back on it now, Sophia shouldn't have come out of Pascal's belly in the first place, and just stayed there and played there. Wouldn't it have been better? Haida ignored Sophia's thoughts and took out her phone to look at the map. She said, Bo Chang, we are going to the laboratory soon. Are you ready? I'm ready. Bo Chang nodded. Next. Under the leadership of Haida, the group came to the laboratory given to her by Luofu Xianzhou. It's not a big lab. It only has a total area of 300 square meters and only 5 scientific researchers, but all the equipment is complete. Black Tower took stock. Although it's a little crude compared to the space station, but it's enough for the time being. Bo Chang? What are you still doing? Take off your clothes quickly and put on a lab coat. Do you need to take off your clothes for the experiment? March 7 looked confused. Haida said, I want to do a full body check on him. His clothes are inconvenient. Bad news, Chapter 200, forced insemination has been blocked. And the lockdown won't be lifted until at least Monday next week. In order to avoid affecting the reading experience, the author will publish the original manuscript of the blocked chapter in the book club. At least until the chapters are unsealed. Will not be deleted. Group number, 839763839. Answer the protagonist's name to join the group. Chapter 201 Rat Spell Power Experiment. In a quiet laboratory. Under Haida's command, Bo Chang went to the small room next to him to change his clothes. He also took the opportunity to try out his undressing skills for a second. All in all, it's very useful. It only takes one light wing to unfold and the clothes can be taken off in an instant. Theoretically speaking, after Bo Chang's hands touch the clothes, he can use the skill of taking off clothes in 1 second. This move is naturally effective against enemies as well. The premise is that the hand can touch it. If you can't touch it, it's all in vain. Putting on a white lab coat, Bo Chang opened the door and took his first step as an experimental subject. I have the option of love in the starry sky. Author, Lao Cha Shugu. Chapter 165. Relax, I won't eat you. Haida looked at the black-haired boy who slowly walked out. Bo Chang said, well, after all, it's the first time to be studied, it's normal to be a little nervous. Okay, just be happy. Haida answered perfunctorily. Afterwards, Bo Chang did a series of examinations. It was like a physical examination in a hospital. After that, Haida took out a bunch of toys and asked Bo Chang to revive them with his power. It is said that these toys are basically famous characters on the Azure Star. Some of them are legendary characters. Bo Chang picked a humanoid character at random and directly injected the magic of the rat spell into it. The warrior, who was originally motionless, suddenly moved. This toy made of pure plastic does not have skin that is almost the same as Sophia's. The surface still feels plastic. And the IQ does not seem to be very high, it feels a little worse than the previous teddy bear. The warrior looked up to the sky and howled. Heaven created all things to nourish man, but man has nothing to repay heaven. Kill, 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 kill. This familiar word made Bo Chang stunned instantly. The warrior with red eyes didn't care so much. He rushed directly towards Bo Chang. Ha man! Bo Chang grabbed him directly with his invisible hand. The warrior, who was suspended in the air, struggled hard, but couldn't escape his control. Just shouted in vain. Kill, 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 kill. Haida came over and said, turning stillness into movement, what is the principle of this? The doll lowly had a feeling. As long as she could understand Bo Chang's power, she could try to revive the dead. That is, the resurrection of the dead. Bo Chang replied, don't ask me, I only know how to use these powers, but I don't know the principles. And, Miss Haida, you should know that my power can't control the actions of toys after resurrecting them, so why did you choose this guy? Anyway, he can't have much impact on you, right? Haida didn't care about such trivial matters. What the puppet girl said was indeed true. However, what Bo Chang was worried about was that if there were similar powerful toys inside, it would not be fun. So, Bo Chang raised his concerns. Haida said, don't worry, there are no star gods or order envoys here. The toys I chose are basically within the controllable range. Even if they are really out of control, I can suppress them immediately. The puppet girl is very confident, and she does have the cost of confidence. As an order envoy, as long as the opponent is not a star god or an order envoy of the same specification, basically, there is no need to worry. After all, The gap between an order envoy and an ordinary destiny walker is too big. Haida walked up to the warrior, looked at him carefully, and then asked Bo Chang to put him in a sealed glass box. Then the second and third different toys were resurrected under the power of the rat spell. They were also locked together. Several duels were launched. Sanyuki, Zillowa, and others were greatly impressed. Of course, when conducting the experiment on the power of the rat spell, Haida had already asked the 5 researchers in the laboratory to leave. It was better for them not to know some things, to avoid something uncontrollable. Those who stayed in the laboratory now were trustworthy. Time slipped away quietly in the experiment. According to the test results, we can know that, the more famous the character is, the smarter and stronger it is. In addition, the strength of the resurrected character is also related to historical legends and the materials of the toys. However, fame and historical legends are the key, and materials are only secondary factors. After a comparative experiment, Haida came to the above conclusion. After a pause, Haida continued, in addition, there is another very important factor that affects strength, that is, whether this person existed in history. According to the test, when other conditions are similar, characters with historical prototypes are often much stronger than characters without historical prototypes, whether in terms of strength or IQ. It seems that, the power in you seems to have captured their projections from the long river of history, using the statue as the coordinate, and attached them to the statue. Haida's explanation was simple and straightforward. Bo Chang nodded thoughtfully. This is somewhat similar to the simulated universe I created. The Black Tower created the simulated universe to explore the mysteries of the star god. It also contains simulated star gods built with data. And Bo Chang's power. If nothing unexpected happens, it can directly capture the projection of the star god from the long river of history. If it weren't for the fear that capturing the projection of the star god would cause unpredictable consequences, I'm afraid the Black Tower wants to do it now. Bo Chang looked at the toys that lost their power and turned back into statues. At this point, Bo Chang realized that there are not many toys that can have high intelligence like Sophia. Most of the toys were resurrected by the magic of the rat talisman. IQ is not high. Usually they are stubborn and act according to their own original settings. No matter how they coerce or induce, it is useless, they live in their own world and cannot get out. Or even just say a few set words. Like a robot. And these toys basically have no historical prototypes. It is worth mentioning that Haida also performed some personal activities. This allowed Bo Chang to see another possibility. As a member of the Genius Club, but also as an envoy. The Black Tower has fans. And just now, she asked Bo Chang to resurrect several toys that she was a fan of, and one of them was not even dead in the real world. But he was also resurrected by Bo Chang's power. Toys for these fanatics. He is completely loyal to one person in the Black Tower, but he is a bit stupid and not very strong. I don't like the doll Loli at all. Black Tower was very cruel and asked Bo Chang to take back the magic power of the rat charm and turn them back into toys. The idea is great, but it's a bit troublesome to cultivate a high-profile and loyal avatar, not to mention that even if it is cultivated, the strength is not very good. Bo Chang sighed slightly in his heart. There are still some limitations to the magic power of the rat charm. If Bo Chang was still weak, he could use this power to create a strong army in batches. But now for him, those toys are too weak. Chapter 202, Yuchen In. During the experiment, Bo Chang only found out after asking Zillowa. It turns out that the little Princess Sophia has a historical connection in Belloberg, which can even be traced back to 700 years ago. Because Yalilo 6 was still in the interstellar age at that time. It is estimated that Sophia has a certain reputation on other planets. It is precisely because of his high reputation and historical prototype that fate created a familiar with high IQ. You know, among the toys taken out by the Black Tower, the probability of having a high IQ is very low. Among hundreds of toys, there are only a few of them. Speaking of which, when Sophia was resurrected, the system reminded her. Bochenke took action. But this little princess with a foul mouth can't actually be of much help. She can only inquire about information and act as a vase. That's it for today's experiment. Wait for Haida to finish what he wants to do. It was already evening. The day of Luofu Xianzhou is coming to an end. Next I want to study these data, as well as those with high IQs. Haida looked at the black-haired boy, the familiar, Bo Chang, that's what you call it, right? The experiment is over. Those familiars with high IQs have not had the power of the rat talisman taken away from their bodies by Bo Chang, and they are still active. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. I have the option of Love in the Starry Sky. Author, Lao Cha Shugu. Chapter 166. Now they also obey the orders of the Black Tower. As for what these guys think in their hearts, no one knows. Anyway, they have temporarily succumbed to the tyranny of the Black Tower. Sophia felt that they were in the same boat. She was tormented by the Black Tower before. Now she feels uncomfortable when she thinks about it. Yes, I call this kind of resurrected toys familiars. Bo Chang spread his hands. Although they are just toys, I still think, Miss Black Tower, don't go too far. Sophia, who was sitting on Xing's shoulder, nodded and said, that's right. The other high IQ familiars looked at the foul-mouthed little princess. I just felt envious. It's much better to follow Bo Chang than to follow Black Tower. The puppet loli just now was completely useless. Not only did she let them go to compete with those low IQ familiars, she also touched them casually, pierced them with needles to draw blood, and made them eat, poop and pee. She even wanted them to watch a movie and masturbate to see if they could masturbate something. Fortunately, Bo Chang stopped him in time. So nothing happened in public. Don't worry, I know what to do. You don't have to worry about it. Haida's eyes turned to the servants. Seeing this, Bo Chang didn't waste time here. He took Sanyuki and others out of the laboratory. Tian Bosi ordered the upper room of Yuchen Inn. Bo Chang and others naturally had to rest there at night. Originally, the task of leading the way should have been completed by Ting Yun. As a result, Ting Yun was replaced and has not been found yet. The task of leading the way can only be given to Sanyuki, Xing and Walter Yang. After all, when they arrested Kafka yesterday, the three of them had been to Yuchen Inn. After a search, Bo Chang and others successfully arrived at the destination. Pushing open the wooden door of Yuchen Inn, a simple and rustic atmosphere came to the face. The white light illuminated the entire hall. Dark embroidered screens divided the inn into several different areas. It faintly reveals the owner's intention of careful arrangement. In the center of the hall, there is a simple green wooden cabinet. The boss behind the counter is concentrating on sorting out the account book. He has a kind face and the wrinkles on his face have experienced the vicissitudes of time. This is Xianzhou. Bo Chang knows that the boss is very likely to be the grandfather of his grandfather's grandfather. In the corner of the inn, there is also a young fox maid wiping the dust on the table with a wet rag. Her movements are gentle and skillful. You can tell at a glance that she is an experienced waiter. It is estimated that her service experience is more than 100 years. But, she still looks like a little girl. After all, this is Xianzhou. The decoration of Yuchen Inn is not gorgeous, it looks a bit approachable, completely different from Gerda Hotel. A long time ago, this place was used to receive distinguished guests visiting Xianzhou. The quaint inn makes people feel inexplicably comfortable. Bo Chang asked Bai Lu to add a few rooms. Under the leadership of the fox maid. After a tiring day, Bo Chang entered his room, opened the bathroom door, and put out hot water to take a bath. Luofu Xianzhou is different from Yali Luo 6. Here, we usually use a bathtub. Instead of a bathtub, put a bench in the wooden bathtub so that you can sit in it and take a bath. Bo Chang didn't care about this, as long as he could take a bath, it was enough. Put hot water. Bo Chang tested the water temperature and felt it was about right. Then he took off his clothes and sank his whole body. Bo Chang, sitting on the small bench, only had his head floating outside. He closed his eyes and enjoyed this moment of tranquility. In Luofu Xianzhou, everything happened too fast and too densely, and Bo Chang had almost no time to breathe. Unlike the pleasant and leisurely time of Beiloberg. In Luofu Xianzhou, Bo Chang was either fighting or on the way to fight. Yesterday he fought with blade. Today he fought with illusion. Bo Chang didn't dare to think about what to fight tomorrow. It's impossible for a star god to suddenly appear. Wait, this doesn't seem impossible. Bo Chang suddenly thought of the joyful star god, aha. He was also being watched by the other party, and God knows when he will come to his door. Bo Chang naturally didn't want to meet aha. But some things are not up to him. If aha comes to his door, no one can stop him, even if Jing Yuan and Haida join forces, there is no way. There is an insurmountable gap between the envoy and the ordinary fate walker. The same is true between the star god and the envoy. As Bo Chang thought about it, he lowered his head into the water and took a deep breath. The warm water flowed directly into the lungs from the nasal cavity. Because the underwater breathing skill was effective, Bo Chang did not feel any discomfort. He even felt that it was quite comfortable. It was when the water flowed into the lungs. It was a little uncomfortable. After all, he usually breathes air, so it is normal to be unaccustomed. Just when Bo Chang was taking a bath. The room on the other side. Zing, Sanyuki, Bailu, and Zilawa, 4 girls are together. What are they doing? Then of course, I played mahjong. Anyway, I was free anyway, so I had to find something to do. Pascal was serving tea and water nearby. Sophia's pet robot was sleeping in its belly. As for Dan Hung and Walter Yang, they were both in their rooms, and I didn't know what they were doing. After playing with the underwater breathing skill, Bo Chang remembered another skill of his, forced conception. The skill description said that it ignored reproductive isolation, and I didn't know whether it would work for races like the Chiming tribe that had no fertility. Bo Chang thought about it. Clicking on the forced conception skill, he found that there was a no 2 behind it. No 2, it can work for all living things, and men and genderless people can also get pregnant. Bo Chang, I think you are a bit extreme. JPG. Chapter 203 Practical Exercise. I took a quick look at the skill description. Bo Chang knew. The forced conception skill didn't care whether the other party had fertility. As long as Bo Chang could use the skill when he was coming in a living thing, he could get pregnant. Gender was completely unimportant. It's quite perverted. Perverted in every sense. It's already amazing that Bo Chang can make the people of the Qiming tribe turn into dragons. Now he can also make the Qiming tribe pregnant and give birth to children, regardless of gender. It's simply explosive and makes people don't know how to describe it. Bo Chang spit a few bubbles underwater. If the Qiming tribe knows this skill, it will be a big trouble. Just think about it. For the Qiming tribe who can't give birth to the next generation and can only reincarnate and be self-sufficient, how big a shock is it to be able to give birth to a child? Bo Chang didn't dare to tell this matter to others. At least not for the time being. If a group of Qiming tribe girls come out and want to have a child with me, that's also very annoying. Bo Chang thought so, and the corners of his mouth buried in the water slowly curled up. After taking a bath, Bo Chang got up and wiped off the water stains on his body, then he changed into an ancient-style bathrobe with the characteristics of the ferry boat, picked up his mobile phone and took a look, and found that Sanyuki and others sent a message in the group, saying that they were playing mahjong in Sing's room. Sanyuki, Sing, Zilawa, and Bailu. Bo Chang didn't want to disturb them for the time being. He stood by the table and looked at his two weapons. The Spear of Oath and the Cyber Sword. The blue spear is pretty good. In battle, I have the option of love in the starry sky. Author, Lao Cha Shugu. Chapter 167. It has always been used as the main weapon. Because of its indestructible nature, Bo Chang's strength will not be affected by weapons breaking during battle. The cyber flying sword can only be used as a secondary weapon. The main purpose is to fly with Bo Chang, not to fight, not to mention that he has no skills related to the big sword. Using a big sword will prevent you from fully displaying your strength. Touching the black scabbard of the cyber flying sword, Bo Chang said with emotion, "Nanotechnology is really powerful. When I was fighting the incarnation of Phantom before, the blade and scabbard of the cyber flying sword were destroyed. But he recovered quickly, much faster than Bo Chang in this suit. Although this outfit is also a treasure. But obviously, there is still a certain gap between clothes and cyber flying swords." Ding dong. Bo Chang's cell phone suddenly rang, interrupting his thoughts. He picked up the phone and took a look. He found that the message was from Dan Hung, who was asking him if he had finished taking a bath. "Although I don't know what the cold-faced little Qinglong wants to do with me." Bo Chang still replied, "I'm done soaking. What, is there anything wrong?" Dan Hung, "Nothing, I just wanted to ask you, do you want to come down and practice your marksmanship?" The cold-faced Xiao Qinglong mentioned this. Bo Chang suddenly realized that since he obtained the 100 Birds Chao Huang spear, he had no longer worked hard to practice his marksmanship. "I originally thought about exercising for 2.5 hours every day. Been lazy for a few days now." Certainly. These 2 days of actual combat can be regarded as replacing Bo Chang's training time to a certain extent. He did not neglect his marksmanship. It's even becoming more and more sophisticated. After all, actual combat can increase experience much faster than training. Bo Chang thought for a while and immediately typed, "Okay." Wearing a bathrobe and holding an oath gun, Bo Chang went downstairs. Dan Han was waiting for him in the lobby of Yuchen Inn. At this time, the cold-faced little green dragon was no longer in dragon form, and was no longer so conspicuous in the crowd. "Where do you exercise?" Stopping, Bo Chang asked. "Go to the backyard." Dan Hung stood up from the wooden chair holding the spear. "Zuyun, follow me." To be honest, Dan Hung's sudden invitation was a bit surprising. Bo Chang thought that after knowing that his marksmanship was already very good, he would not train him anymore. Unexpectedly, Dan Hung did not give up. The two left the hall. Dan Hung led the way without saying a word. After not walking far, the two came to the backyard of the Yuchen Inn, which was specially used for guests' activities. Now there are no outsiders, only Bo Chang and Dan Hung. "No nonsense, Mant." Dan Hung said, "Your current marksmanship can be called a master, ordinary training is not enough, why not try to practice with me in actual combat? A practical exercise." Bo Chang blinked. Dan Hung nodded and said, "That's right, you don't have to worry about causing harm to me, just take action, but, remember to only use marksmanship, not other abilities, and keep your strength down, so as not to damage the inn." Thing. The purpose of conducting practical exercises is to enhance marksmanship. Naturally, the use of abilities other than marksmanship is not allowed. Dan Hung's tone was very confident. This is also normal. After all, Dan Han can go to the large size. Then come on. Bo Chang was also unambiguous. He raised his spear and stabbed Dan Heng with the sharp tip of the spear. The two were playing table tennis in the backyard. The blue spear and the black spear kept clashing in the air. Walter Yang held a cup of tea and stood by the window watching the two men fight. He had no intention of disturbing them and just watched silently. Sure enough, Bo Chang just wants to be more aggressive when he hits a woman. Walter Yang, who had a vicious eye, discovered this easily. The actual combat drill between Dan Heng and Bo Chang lasted for nearly half an hour. When the two of them were about to get steamy, Dan Heng stopped. That's it? If you continue, you'll have to take a shower again. The cold-faced little Ching Long slammed the spear in his hand on the ground. Why did Bo Chang's marksmanship improve so quickly? Dan Heng did not pursue it. After all, everyone on the train set had secrets. There are countless peculiarities about Bo Chang. Why bother to get to the bottom of it? Dan Heng is not March 7th. It is enough for him to know that Bo Chang is not his enemy. Bo Chang nodded. Dan Heng is actually quite considerate of others, but he is not very gregarious. March 7th also invited him to play mahjong just now, but the cold-faced Xiao Qinglong refused without mercy. Then I'll go back and see March 7th and the others. After Bo Chang finished speaking, he turned around to leave. Dan Heng suddenly said, "Wait. What's wrong?" Bo Chang turned around. Under the night, Dan Heng had no expression on his face and said, "What happened in the afternoon? I'm sorry, I really didn't want to use that power, and I didn't expect that you would fall into Huanhu's little trick and lose directly. I knew it would be like this. At that time, I should have been earlier." The romance option is turned on. Option 1, shake his head and say, "If an apology is useful, why do you need Yunkihun? Dan Heng, you can't hide your clumsiness next time you encounter this situation." Completion reward, Dan Heng autistic 24 hours. Option 2, take the opportunity to threaten, "I almost died, Dan Heng, I can't accept your apology unless you promise to give me a baby." Completion reward, Dan Heng's big cock pocket. Chapter 204 Fuxian's visit. Option 3, he groaned in pain, "No. It's okay if you don't tell me. But if you say, my chest hurts a little. I need Dan Heng to rub it to get better." Completion reward, Dan Heng's big cock pocket. Option 4, generously said, "It's okay, Dan Heng, there's no need to come here to apologize for such a trivial matter." Completion reward, obtain random props, ranging from matches to star destroyers. Note, such props will. Option 5, smile crookedly and say, "Dan Heng, since you said so, then consider it that you owe me a favor." Completion reward, Dan Heng's mysterious reward. See options 2 and 3. Bo Chang couldn't hold himself tight. He was not a gay man. In short, the first 3 options can be eliminated directly, and only the last 2 can be selected. Random props and Dan Heng's mysterious rewards. How to choose? Although his intuition told Bo Chang that he should choose the 4th one. But Bo Chang was still a little curious. What kind of mysterious reward will Dan Heng come up with? Option 4 or option 5? If Bo Chang remembers correctly, this is the 3rd time a mysterious reward has appeared. The first 2 times were Jingyuan and Haida, and I didn't know what this thing would reveal. Bo Chang thought, no, Dan Heng and I are friends who never see each other. What's more, he has also helped me a lot during this time. How can I explode gold coins from his body? It's really explosive, I'm too embarrassed to accept it. After hesitating for a moment, Bo Chang chose the 4th one. It's okay, Dan Heng. There's no need to come here to apologize for such a trivial matter. The cold-faced little Ching Long fell silent. The system's voice then sounded. Rewards are being distributed, congratulations on getting the props, the storage bag, which is made using space folding technology. It has a space of 10 square meters. There is no password. You can open it and use it. Note, this prop has been stored in the system space and can be taken out and used directly. Storage bag. Bo Chang's eyes lit up slightly. He didn't expect that he accidentally hit another good thing. He immediately clicked on the details of this prop. Additional notes are found at the back. Note 2, this prop can accommodate living creatures. Note 3, this item has poor defense capabilities, so please use it with caution. At this time, Dan Heng took out his mobile phone and clicked on it a few times. A message ringtone came from Bo Chang's cell phone. What does it mean to message me face to face? Bo Chang came to his senses and took out his cell phone to take a look. As a result, he was surprised to find that Dan Heng transferred 200,000 credits to himself and sent it directly to his chat account. I have the option of love in the starry sky. Author, Lao Cha Shugu. Chapter 168. Now all it takes is Bo Chang to move his fingers slightly. You can get 200,000 credits. This amount of money is not too small. 200,000 credits is enough to buy a lot of things. At first, after getting this interstellar phone, Bo Chang had already registered an account for Interstellar Peace Company. Although you can now collect payments. But Bo Chang did not accept it, but raised his head and said, I saved this money, just accept it as an apology gift. Dan Heng looked at Bo Chang with a calm expression, as if waiting for him to receive the credits. What to do? Bo Chang did not expect that Dan Heng would give him credit points. This thing is said to be lacking. He is lacking too. Let's say there is no shortage, there is no shortage either. After all, Bo Chang can eat and drink for free on the Star Dome train. When you go to places like Xianzhou, you travel with public funds, so you don't need to worry about credit points at all. But the key issue now is not this, but that Bo Chang doesn't want to accept it at all. No, Dan Heng, you are too polite. You should keep these credits for yourself. The cold-faced Xiao Qinglong wants to give it, but Bo Chang doesn't want it. The two were in a stalemate for a moment. In the end, Dan Heng took a step back and said, if you change your mind, you can call me again. I won't change my mind. That's it for now. I'm going back. Bo Chang shook his head slightly. He drew the storage bag and wanted to play with new props. Next, Bo Chang left the backyard. Dan Heng continued to exercise alone. After returning to the lobby of Yuchen Inn, Bo Chang actually saw Fu Xian. The tiny Tabu-sama was accompanied by a green bird of similar height. Two girls walking together. Like two sisters. Bo Chang, good evening, have you finished your dinner? Fu Xian was the first to say hello. Ba Kame said, before we came to Yuchen Inn, we had already eaten on the way. Well, Master Tabu, shouldn't he be very busy now? Why do you have time to come here? The matter has almost been dealt with, so I wanted to come over and take a look. Fu Xian crossed his arms and said, by the way, I'll send Xing's trash can over. Bo Chang concentrated slightly. Only then did he see Mayu's trash can behind Kinke. It's just a trash can. I don't need Master Tabu to do it myself. I can just let Kinke deliver it. Isn't that enough? I heard Bo Chang say this. The mahjong girl immediately stared at him with helpless eyes. As if to say, can you please stop mentioning me? Fu Suandeo, actually, I have something I want to talk to you about. Let's go and talk to you in the room. Sure enough, something happened. Bo Chang vaguely guessed it when he saw Lord Tabu hesitate to speak during the day. After saying that, Fu Xian looked at the mahjong girl and said, Kinke, please send the trash can to Xing. Okay, Master Tabu. Kinke nodded in response. Then, Bo Chang took Fu Xian into his room, while Kinke carried the trash can and went to find Xing. Lord Tebu, do you have anything to do with me? Could it be that the Luofu immortal boat is in trouble, and the train crew needs to be dispatched, but you should discuss this kind of matter with Uncle Yang. Bo Chang closed the door and said a lot. Fu Xian shook his head. No. Luofu has no trouble at the moment and needs your help. I'm just looking for you. Bo Chang, I heard King K mention that you have many magical props. I want to see them. Oh. Bo Chang made a sound of surprise. But. In fact, Bo Chang wasn't too surprised. His props were magical, and it was normal for him to arouse others' curiosity. I have a lot of props on me. Which one do you want to see, Mr. Tebu? Teleportation ring. Fu Xian said bluntly. Bo Chang raised his hand and showed the teleportation ring on his left index finger. This. Fu Xian's eyes flashed with strange light, and she reached out and touched the white ring gently. Then he pinched his fingers. Determine the origin of the teleportation ring. Bo Chang looked at Lord Tebu condescendingly. The other person said some unintelligible words, and the pink bun that was carefully taken care of on his head shook slightly. Strange, I thought that with the three elements of heaven, earth, and man in place, it would be a good time to come here for divination. Why am I still getting nothing? Bo Chang, where did your teleportation ring come from? The romance option is turned on. Option 1, pat Fu Xian on the shoulder and say, do you want it? As long as Master Tebu is willing to let me steal something from you, I will give you a teleportation ring. Completion reward, use of stealing skills range increased from 10 meters to 100 meters. Note, ancient coins must be worn when using the stealing skill. Chapter 205 I am a good person. Option 2, put your hands on Fu Xian's shoulders and say, if Lord Tebu wants it, I can give you a teleportation ring, but, the condition is that you let me pick you up and lift you high. Completion reward, strength increased by 100%. Option 3, I am an honest person, so I have to answer honestly, I don't know. Anyway, sometimes when I want to teleport the ring, it suddenly appears. Everyone in the train group knows it. Completion reward, get a random item, from a match to a star destroyer. Note, this kind of item will. Why is it stealing again? Seeing option 1, Bo Chang was powerless to complain, I can't just use stealing on anyone I catch. Using the stealing skill on the opposite sex without permission. So far, only Sanyuki and Huanlong have enjoyed it. And the pink-haired girl was idle at the time, and only socks were stolen. There is no need to say more about Huanlong. Anyway, they are enemies, so it doesn't matter how they are treated, but what about Fu Xian? That needs to be more cautious. First of all, Bo Chang has a very ordinary relationship with him. Even if she doesn't know the truth of the stealing skill, it will be embarrassing if she agrees to use the stealing skill to steal things from her body and finally gets the briefs. Not to mention the stealing skill upgrade. For Bo Chang, it doesn't mean much. The only effect is that he can steal farther. If you really choose this, I'm afraid there will be more options to trigger theft in the future. After all, it's easier to steal briefs. So option 1 is skipped directly. Bo Chang was a little tempted when he saw option 2. Improving physical fitness is very important, but unfortunately the content also makes people feel uneasy. And you can tell at a glance that this task is a bit difficult. His eyes continued to move downwards. Option 3 is the most conventional, and the reward is also relatively poor. Let's choose the second one. Even if Fu Xian disagrees, I estimate that I can increase my strength by 50%. At worst, she will think I'm a pervert. Bo Chang had the idea of breaking the jar. Anyway, when I put on that red lace briefs, my reputation was ruined. After making a decision, Bo Chang stretched out his hands, put them on Fu Xian's shoulders, and said, if you want, Master Tebu, I can give you a teleportation ring, but, the premise is that I can pick you up and lift you high. Fu Xian was a little stunned by Bo Chang's sudden attack, and when she reacted, the black-haired boy's big hands had already pressed on her thin shoulders. Before coming here, Fu Xian had already divined for himself and knew that Bo Chang might do something strange, so he was not nervous. The petite chest rose and fell gently. The Grand Master looked up at Bo Chang and said, "You really know how to do business by exchanging the teleportation ring for lifting up high. Don't worry, I'm a good person, and the Grand Master is so reasonable, he will definitely fulfill my little wish." Although he felt that the chances of Fu Xian agreeing were not high. But Bo Chang still struggled for a while. If he could lift Fu Xian up high and get a 100% increase in strength, it would definitely be a big profit for him, and there would be no loss. Bo Chang also looked forward to the other party's agreement. Smelling the faint fragrance on the Grand Master, the two looked at each other. Fu Xian said, just like Kinkai said, "You are really an unpredictable pervert. I thought you would use stealing to deceive me and wait for an opportunity to steal the panties. For this, I deliberately coughed before coming." Seemingly realizing that he had said something he shouldn't have said, Fu Xian coughed lightly and stiffly changed the subject. "In short, I have made mental preparations, but I didn't expect you to not steal but to lift it instead. Master Taibu means, do you agree?" Bo Chang asked tentatively. Fu Xian was silent for a moment, shook his head and said, "I didn't say I wanted your teleportation ring, although that thing is magical, it won't make me agree to your rude request." Bo Chang thought that after the other party rejected him, the system would directly pop up a failure. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. I have the option of Love in the Starry Sky. Author, Lao Cha Shugu. Chapter 169. I didn't expect it. That is to say, the mission is still going on. Now Bo Chang has three choices: continue to persuade Fu Xian, forcefully pick Fu Xian up and lift him high, and wait for the mission to fail. Three strategies. They can be called the upper, middle, and lower strategies respectively. It would be the best to persuade Fu Xian to obey. But Bo Chang is not sure if he can convince the other party. The best way is to exchange more benefits. As the Taibu of Danding Division, Fu Xian's vision is obviously very high. A teleportation ring can arouse her curiosity. But it can't make Fu Xian agree to Bo Chang's rude request. Is there anything else on me that the other party might be interested in? Super fashionable sanitary napkins? Blood-sucking bandages? 1,000 characters? Or a master key? Maybe a master key can, but I will feel bad. A master key that claims to be able to open any lock. Of course it is a bug-level prop. It is indeed a bit difficult for Bo Chang to send this thing out. After all, the teleportation ring can be opened with luck. If the master key is gone, maybe it's really gone. Why don't you try to forcefully pick up Fu Xian and lift her up high? But, she will be angry, she will definitely be angry. Although Bo Chang wanted to do the task, he also knew the limit. He would not do anything too extreme. Can I just wait for the task to fail? Bo Chang pondered for a few seconds. Fu Xian said, "Can you let me go?" "Master Taibu, I have other props here, do you want to consider it?" Bo Chang chose to continue persuading, he still pressed Fu Xian's shoulders. There was no sign of letting go for the time being. With one hand on his waist, Fu Xian said helplessly, "Do you really want to lift me up?" "Of course." Bo Chang nodded. Fu Xian sighed heavily and said, "Okay, since you want to lift me up so much, then come on." The pink-haired Master Taibu closed his eyes with a fearless look. Bo Chang stared blankly at Fu Xian in front of him. For a moment, he didn't know what was going on. Fu Xian closed her beautiful golden eyes. She looked up, her pitiful face facing Bo Chang. The third eye between her eyebrows flickered slightly, which seemed to reflect that she was not calm. In this situation, Bo Chang did not believe that Fu Xian could calm down. This defenseless look, let alone holding her up high, even if Bo Chang suddenly kissed her, Fu Xian would definitely not be able to react. Let's be honest. Fu Xian's current look was no different from asking for a kiss. Her moist cherry mouth seemed to be reflecting an attractive luster. Bo Chang felt a little surprised, so he whispered, "Master Taibu, are you threatened by General Jing Yuan? If so, just nod and I promise not to tell anyone else." Chapter 206, a rare and precious scene. You are threatened by Jing Yuan. Fu Xian's eyes suddenly opened, and she stared at Bo Chang with a pair of golden pupils. I just decided to meet your rude request based on the divination results. If you don't want to be lifted up, then I'll leave. Master Taibu has already said this. How can Bo Chang back down? Fu Xian has agreed anyway. Taking a deep breath, Bo Chang's hands on his soft shoulders immediately moved down and inserted into the other's armpits. Fu Xian's dress is a collection of chest length, shoulder exposed, and backless. When the big hands are placed on the armpits, they can touch his hairless and smooth armpits. Then, Bo Chang picked up Fu Xian and lifted him up. Being treated like a child, the aged Taibu Lord's cheeks flushed, and his pearly teeth bit his soft red lips. That shy look made Bo Chang feel happy. A gentleman's smile appeared on his face involuntarily. Lift it up. Put it down. Lift it up again. Put it down again. Have you had enough fun? Fu Xian, who was lifted up, looked down at Bo Chang unhappily. Taibu Lord's body was very soft and light. The other party wore white carved stockings on a pair of round and beautiful legs. It made people unable to stop. Not enough. Bo Chang did not lie. The system's voice did not sound, which meant it was not enough. Seeing this, Fu Xian closed her eyes resignedly. So Bo Chang lifted it several times again. Is this enough? Fu Xian couldn't help it. She didn't like the feeling of being lifted up high. But the system's voice still didn't sound. Bo Chang said, "It's not quite there yet, maybe I didn't hug him properly just now, so I need to hug him again." By analyzing the literal meaning, in addition to the improper hug, it may be that Fu Xian did not agree to accept the teleportation ring. These two different factors are there. Don't go too far. Fu Xian struggled. The small toes gently kicked Bo Chang's chest. With this force, Master Taibu instantly escaped from his control and floated backwards. The silk and satin on his body fluttered in the air, and Fu Xian landed gracefully. Do you want to hug me? If Bo Chang is willing. Fu Xian couldn't escape at all, but he didn't use any force, but let the other party leave. Bo Chang still understood the principle of too much is as bad as too little. Seeing that the system did not prompt the mission failure, Bo Chang continued, if you don't want to hold it, then don't hold it, but, the transmission ring, Master Taibu must accept it. Strange guy, if you must give it, then I will accept it reluctantly. Fu Xian agreed. At this moment, the system's prompt sounded. Rewards are being distributed. Congratulations on your 100% increase in strength. A warm current flows through the whole body. Bo Chang's strength has increased from 32 times that of ordinary people to 64 times. 48 times of physical fitness is already less than strength. The muscles all over the body have been torn and reorganized, becoming stronger and more powerful. In the case of no major changes in body shape, Bo Chang's physical fitness has been improving, and the internal structure of the body is probably different from that of normal people. Huh? It actually succeeded. It turns out that there is no need to hold it again. Bo Chang breathed a sigh of relief. This mission is now successfully completed. Fu Xian turned sideways, looked at him with squinted eyes, and said, "Aren't you going to give me a teleportation ring?" "Ah, I don't have that thing for the time being, I have to wait." Bo Chang scratched his head. Fu Xian slowly typed a question mark. "You are here to tease me, right?" "No, no. When I have a teleportation ring, I will definitely send it to Master Taibu." Bo Chang answered like this. As for the agreement with the fake Ting Yun, it was naturally invalidated. After all, the person who made an agreement with me that night, it was probably Huan Long. Now that the person has been beaten away, and both sides are still enemies, Bo Chang certainly doesn't have to fulfill the agreement. Fu Xian put her hands on her waist, silent for a moment. She moved a chair from the side, and then sat down. "Didn't you say you have a lot of props? Take them out one by one for me to look at." "That's a lot, for example, this banana peel, if you step on it, you will definitely fall." Bo Chang took out a small prop from the system space. Its appearance is no different from the banana peel before crossing. "I have the option of love in the starry sky." Author, Lao Cha Shugu. Chapter 170. It just has an extra plastic texture. Fu Xian had a puzzled expression on his face and said, "Really? So magical?" "Yes, if you don't believe it, Master Taibu can give it a try." Bo Chang encouraged him. He was also curious about the efficacy of banana peels. "If anyone is willing to volunteer." "Of course it couldn't be better." Fu Xian replied, "Just give it a try." Curious about banana peels, Master Taibu stood up. Facing such a dedicated Fu Xian, Bo Chang threw the banana peel on the ground without hesitation. "Lord Taibu, please." Bo Chang bowed slightly. Fu Xian looked at the banana peel on the ground. She pinched it and said, "The water and fire are not in control, the wind and sky are small beasts, the fortune is reversed, everything is not going well, this hexagram, it seems that there is indeed danger. But, as long as you break through the difficulties, you can achieve success. It's worth giving it a try." Fu Xian added another sentence in his heart. Bo Chang looked at her and waited quietly for a reply. "Humph, it's just wrestling, how can I be afraid?" Fu Xian stepped on it. Then, his foot slipped, and the banana peel flew out into the distance. Unknown power spreads from it. Fu Xian's body fell uncontrollably. She wanted to get up again, but found that she had no control over her body. As one of the 6 imperial guards, Taibu is also a strong contender for the next Yunkai general. Fu Xian's strength is very strong. Logically speaking, this level of wrestling would have no effect on her. Fu Xian can adjust the body balance in n ways. Result: nothing works. Fu Xian could only watch as he fell backwards. When Bo Chang saw this scene, he could only lend a helping hand in time and hold Master Taibu's shoulders with both hands to prevent him from falling. Fu Xian, who was still frightened, had just come to his senses and had not had time to get up. The door of the inn was pushed open. March 7 and Kincaid stared blankly at Fu Xian lazily leaning against Bo Chang. One of them had a hint of red on his face. One had a look of concern on his face. Although there is still a little distance between Fu Xian and Bo Chang. But from the perspective of March 7 and Kincaid, they can be considered intimate. "What are you doing?" The corners of March 7's mouth twitched slightly. Kincaid seized the opportunity and took out his mobile phone to record this beautiful scene. A few photos were taken. What a rare scene. Kincaid thought so in his heart. When Bo Chang saw March 7 and Kincaid, he immediately helped Fu Xian, who was leaning on him, and explained, "Don't get me wrong, Lord Taibu just tried my banana peel, so he's a little unsteady now." March 7, have you tried your banana? Kincaid. Bo Chang. Fu Xian. Chapter 207, Finding Wealth in Danger. March 7 said such words, which was completely unexpected. There was silence in the room for a moment. "It's my banana peel," a small prop Bo Chang spoke first. He shrugged slightly. "March, how did you hear it? Don't donate your ears to those in need." "Banana peel? How could a banana peel put you two in this position? And, what do you mean by don't have ears and donate them to people in need?" March 7 looked confused. Fu Xian stood firm and patted the hem of her skirt gently. Although there was no dirt on it, she still made this ladylike action, and she followed up with the wound. "If I guess correctly, Bo Chang is probably mocking you for your poor hearing." "You." March 7 placed his hands on his hips and looked at Bo Chang with an unkind expression. "Face this situation." Bo Chang showed a harmless smile. He just answered a question and said, "Because the ability of that banana peel is that if you step on it, you will definitely fall. I saw Master Taibu fall, and that's why I reached out to help. If you don't believe me, you can give it a try. True or false?" Hearing what Bo Chang said, March 7th's curiosity was aroused. King K found the banana peel that flew out from the side. "Is this it?" "That's right." Bo Chang nodded. March 7 put one hand on his hip and said, "King K, throw the banana peel on the ground and let me try it." "Okay." King K threw away the banana peel and immediately stepped aside to watch the show. Fu Xian walked up to the mahjong girl with a smile on his face, patted her on the shoulder and said, "King K, you just secretly took a photo, right? Hand over your phone." According to King K's previous style, he should obediently hand over his phone now. But, after receiving the influence of Bo Chang, King K made a mistake and said, "Master Taibu, you don't want these photos to be seen by others. There is a saying that goes well, wealth can be found in danger." So King K went up. "I think you're looking for a fight." Fu Xian gave the mahjong girl a blast. Bo often looked at King K with admiring eyes, never expecting that the other party would dare to say such words to Master Taibu. He is simply a role model for our generation. It's a pity that King K's attack failed. The mahjong girl succumbed to Fu Xian's power and handed over her phone obediently. On the other side, Sanyuki stepped on a banana peel. Just like Fu Xian. The yellow banana peel flew out suddenly. Sanyuki fell down. Bo Chang did not favor one over the other. He immediately reached out and grabbed the pink-haired girl and prevented her from falling. "Now you believe it?" Bo Chang grabbed Sanyuki's shoulders from the back, and his eyes involuntarily slid into the abyss of the other's chest. This posture is very suitable for enjoying the beautiful scenery. The reason why this didn't happen just now is very simple. Fu Xian is too flat, just like King K, with only a small bulge on his chest. But, if you look closely, you can find that Taibu-sama is a little bigger than King K. Of course, there may be padding inside. Sanyuki is different. Although compared with Zillowa, Jitsi, and others, the pink-haired girl's chest is a little smaller, but it is still pleasing to the eye. Bo Chang could see the desirable ravine. Under the effect of white light, the skin that was as soft as a blow was reflecting the dazzling white light. "I believe it, your little prop is really weird." Sanyuki stood up straight, she looked at the flying banana peel. "I was prepared, but I didn't expect, I was still hit. This is the power of banana peels." Bo Chang smiled after feasting his eyes. Sanyuki vaguely sensed something. She turned her head, crossed her arms and said vigilantly, "Bo Chang, you didn't take the opportunity to see something you shouldn't have seen just now." "No, don't talk nonsense." Bo Chang immediately rejected it. This kind of thing must not be admitted. "That's good." Sanyuki patted her chest. She chose to believe Bo Chang directly. After Fu Xian deleted the photo that King K had taken. "Bo Chang, can I take that banana peel back to study it?" "Yes, Master Fu Xian." Bo Chang nodded in agreement. Are you going to look at other props? No, I can't chew too much. I'll study this banana peel first, and, the matter of the teleportation ring. Fu Xian hadn't finished speaking yet. Sanyuki said, Bo-chang, you wouldn't secretly give someone a teleportation ring behind everyone's back, would you? Bai Lu is a lesson learned from the past. Far away, there is Para of Baloberg. Even the other party got the teleportation ring earlier than them.